Another very useful thing to recognize, and I'm going to go ahead and take off our collision margin here. We have our sphere which falls on our surface and begins to roll, which is great, but maybe we want to have multiple objects with the exact same physics settings. So if I were to add another sphere to our scene, we have another sphere, and I press play, we have no physics on the newly added sphere. However, if I wanted to, well, I could just add a rigid body, go in here, punch in all the numbers. That takes forever. There's an easier way to do this. Let's say I have 3 spheres here, and I'm just Shift D to duplicate. I have 3 spheres, and I want them to have the same physics property as this sphere. How would I do that? Well, I would click and drag to highlight these 3. Shift click our last one. You'll know which one you shift clicked because it has the actual yellow outline. We would go to Object, Rigid Body, Copy from Active, okay? And now you can see these all have physics properties. And to know that they do, I can click on each individual one, and you'll see the physics properties don't change because they all have the same. And now if I press play, you can see that they all roll off the platform, just like the other one. They have the same mass, they have the same physics, friction and bounciness properties, the same collision margin, everything was copied over. And this is a super easy way to copy things onto other objects if you have physics settings that you're happy with. While this is very useful, it can also be time consuming to add multiple objects. As you guys know, if you've been using Blender for quite some time like I have, if you add an object, such as a sphere, and you give it an array, I'll just go into my modifiers real quick. Now this is not about modifiers, but I'm going to show you that if you generate an array modifier, all right, let's just say we had 6 of these, okay, and maybe they were slightly distanced out like that. Now, if you have an array and you apply your array by clicking on this drop down, apply, let's say that you wanted these all to have physics properties. Well, all you'd have to do, right, is go to rigid body, add in your rigid body, and it should just work, right? Let's go ahead and press play, and let's see what happens. As you can see, it doesn't really look correct. And that's because Blender is treating this as one object, which it is. But I'm going to show you how to actually separate this out. I'm going to go ahead and tab into edit mode. All right, now everything's selected. If it's not, press A to select all, right click, separate by loose parts. And now you'll see in our hierarchy, we have all these spheres. Now if we tab out of edit mode, you can see that they're all their own individual spheres, and they've carried over the physics properties from before. Let's go ahead and press play now. Now we actually have our spheres interacting properly. But notice how they act kind of funky. One thing you have to be very careful about is origins. And I didn't discuss this earlier because I knew this was going to happen and I wanted to bring it up now. See this little tiny dot right here in the center of this sphere? That was our original sphere we added before we applied the array modifier. So the origin, or the center of the object, is going to sit right inside the sphere. But because we separated all of these objects out, they need their own individual origins to be calculated properly as physics objects. Right now, they're being calculated from this center. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of them, right-click, set origin, origin to geometry. And what we're going to see as soon as I click this, there's going to be a dot in the middle of every sphere. And just like that, there's a dot in the middle of every sphere. And now Blender should be able to calculate this properly. Let's go ahead and play this back. Now we get a more realistic physics simulation. It's a little slow at first, but they do fall naturally. And as you can see, they start rolling. This is how we can ensure that Blender knows how to properly calculate the physics of an object. Typically, you want the origin in the center of the object. And if you ever don't see that dot when you click on the object, all you have to do is right-click, set origin, origin to geometry. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and move on